conversation is going round. People talking about the colors come to town. Fresh as a summer breeze, she'll take you by surprise.
Good morning and welcome to another fabulous episode of Fresh Waves. We've got a great show lined up today. We have all kinds of fabulous guests, but before we start, we have to give a big shout out to Reese's Market and Bakery for the beautiful muffins that are in the studio this morning. They're at 5758 Main Street. Go on in and check them out. They're just a wash of amazing, beautiful foods, especially at this time of the year. It's harvest season. It's great. There's even apple pies and all kinds of fun things. To all of our listeners of the Jewish faith, I hope you have a good Yom Kippur and a sweet and happy New Year. And Jay, happy day, Jay.
Happy Wednesday. Happy Fresh Day. Fresh Waves Day.
Thanks, Jay.
You're so
thanks
welcome.
for all you do behind the board, and thanks to Ivan
pleasure, as
Harris.
always.
Ivan Harris is another producer here at Whistle FM, and we'd like to thank him for all the work that he does behind the scenes here. So, it is the third Wednesday of the month, and on the third Wednesday of the month, we are blessed, privileged, and honored to have the guru of decorating and design, Jolana Pettifer. Drumroll, yay!
Always great to be here. Thank you.
And you've brought a guest today.
I have.
How is that? I mean, like, you know, my guest brings a guest.
Well, I have to tell you, I have an incredible privilege of meeting some pretty awesome people, and Tara is one of those people. And when I entrust someone with a client, and she does incredible framing, which we'll get into later, honestly, I know they are being taken care of 200%. So, huge shout out to her. Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Tara. And what's your store name?
It is Stovall Picture Framing, but I also operate under Artifile, which is kind of my rebranding because the store had been there for 15 years. I took over 5 years ago, and I wanted to put my own hands on it, make it mine a little bit more.
Artifiling.
Artifile.
Artifile.
Yeah. Like audiophile, which is someone who loves,
Audio.
music. Artifile, it's totally made up word for, science fiction readers and schizophrenics.
Yeah. Artophile.
Artifile. So the love of art.
Yeah, and all those artsy people out there know exactly what she's talking about.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, you and I have worked together before, Tara, doing a beautiful picture frame for a $10 piece that my son bought me in Ecuador.
Yep.
And the $300 frame later, I've got a really spectacular piece of artwork.
That is a one-of-a-kind.
Yeah, but some
custom
people think
piece.
that I'm crazy for spending that kind of money. But, the first trip to the big box store, Walmart there, you put this kind of a unique piece into a really basic, cheap, low-end frame.
And it makes it look even cheaper.
Yeah. It looks like something that you wouldn't buy at the flea market.
Right.
Now, when people see it, they are
Who's the artist?
stunned.
Right.
Wow, where did you get that? That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I want to say it's not always going to cost $300
Yeah,
to make
sometimes-
something look spectacular, right? It's about, proportion, scale, just having the perfect color to bring it out. Not necessarily expensive. It just has to be the right thing.
And in that particular case, the right thing just happened to
It
cost that
happened
much
to
money.
be Italian molding with an olive wood veneer.
And
It was
when-
like gorgeous.
When we put it with other things that were okay, that one just looked freaking-tacular.
Yeah. It's like when you're putting on an outfit, you can have, you can spend a half a day, when you found the right one. It's the same thing with art. You have to listen to that gut instinct for sure.
And I tell people
speaks to
that
you.
because when I keep laying frame samples down and matte colors down, and it's when they go, oh, yeah, see, we both gasped at the same time. That's when I'm like, we found it. That is the one.
100%.
Yeah. And you did that, and then you went, yeah, but... And then, you go back to the one that was okay before that, and there's just no
doesn't
comparison.
compare.
No comparison. So.
Especially when the price difference is probably, I don't know, like $40, $50.
Yeah.
And in your mind, you're like, okay, something I'm going to love always.
Yeah.
You amortize $50 over
A lifetime.
a lifetime.
Yeah, it's nothing.
It's nothing.
yeah.
That's true. All right, let's start at the very beginning of decorating framing, because with the two of you here in one time, talk tall people hang pictures higher than short people. And it's not a prejudice of any one or the other, but it's true. I had some really tall guys, like 6'2" and 6'4", hang a map. And I kept saying to them, can you guys lower that? Can you just make it lower? No, you can see everything from here. No, please lower it. Anyway, years later, I still have to stand on my toes to see what I want to see. And I know that it's too high.
It's okay. You're painting soon, right? So
I am going to paint, so it's not going to matter.
Hang it at the right height.
Yeah, but
You
what
also
is
have
the
people,
right height?
You also have people that are unwilling to put
listen.
a new nail in the wall.
Yeah,
and so new art pieces go on top of where smaller art pieces were on the same nail, and then you get really distorted hanging
But you know what?
heights.
That's where I have a lot of fun. And we've come into you and done gallery framing.
Yes.
Where you can take a little 2x3 or a 5x6 and you can end up with a great 32x18.
Yes.
And do the disproportionate matting, and it looks like $1 million.
How many mats do you need?
There are ways. We have our ways
Right.
of actually making it look amazing in the spot.
But what is the rule of thumb?
So, galleries all around the world have taken a long time to come up with the right measurement to the center of your painting. And believe it or not, it is 60 inches to the center point. Everyone thinks I make it up because I'm short. It is not. Now, having said that, Tara, you'll agree, there are always exceptions to this rule.
Sure.
But that is actually the preferred height. When you're putting it above a piece, sometimes that will change a little bit.
Fireplaces, because fireplaces are
higher.
high.
Yeah.
They're already, 40 inches, and then
If
to
not
place
higher,
something above it. But at a wall in a hallway, it is a 60-inch center. It just is.
And people struggle, but go online, you'll see it.
And I was at the McMichael Gallery yesterday. Coincidentally enough, knew you guys were coming on, but there you go. The offer was presented to me before I knew you two were coming on. And I went to the gallery, and I was quite surprised. Even when the wall itself was 2 stories high,
Yep.
the pictures were still hung
Yeah,
at that 60 inches.
Sure, you don't center it at 20 feet.
But then isn't there something to be said for in certain spaces that are huge, you might want a big piece because it draws your eye up to that tall
again, there's
space?
exceptions. Every once in a while, like you go into or you look at pictures of the old castles or old manors, they have huge walls of huge amount of paintings. It's completely different.
Right, like San Simeon. If you look at the pictures of San Simeon in the
absolutely.
States, William Randolph Hearst's estate, some of those, the old Greek rounds that he
huge.
has,
Yep.
they're 4 feet thick.
Yep.
So they're embedded into the wall, and they needed the support of the wall in order to sustain the piece.
Right.
So they're put at whatever height the architecture could support them.
Yeah. So there's always exceptions, always.
And if you have a massive piece, so you'd go by the 60-inch rule for the center, but maybe if it was one of the really big pieces, maybe it does have to be a little higher.
This is where you have to assess the placement, the wall, how you're going to view it. Is it close? Is it far? Are there stairs? Are you on a landing? This is where that exception rule comes into play. If you are just doing a hallway and you want to create a gallery wall effect, you're going to have them all at 60 inches center. If you're going to have a huge monster, abstract, or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Well, then the 60-inch rule may not apply, so you've got to assess that.
But that's how you get a dynamic nature to your decor, is you have things that fall in to, the set standard, and you have that, and it kind of holds everything together, keeps everything nice and tight, and then you have the piece where you're playing with
Where
the
it
proportions.
almost doesn't belong, and that's what makes
right,
the room.
and now it makes it like amazing, and that's what pops it. Because that everything too static is a little boring for the eye, and then it's that choice then to make that piece like really like pop.
Stand out.
But on the other hand, you get chaos if you have pictures hanging all over the place, all over the walls, and then there's no basis that everything kind of relates to that you can create a standalone piece out of.
Absolutely. You know how I've always said to you, I always like to throw something into a room that does not belong, and it adds interest, and it looks
life.
amazing. And if you actually look at any of the magazines out there, if you look hard enough, you're going to find the piece that goes, wonder why they put that in there. Well, that's why they put that in there.
Yes, exactly. Well, we have to take our first break, and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion on framing. If you have any questions for our guests this morning, or you just want to tell us about a piece that you have and you're kind of curious about where it should go, give us a call at the station here, 905-640-1027. 1027, right. Sorry, that was my home phone number, which you shouldn't be giving out over the air.
No, not a good idea.
And what was the we never answer that landline anyway, so it wouldn't matter. Call it all you want. So what was that number again, Jay?
905-640-1027.
And what about Twitter and Facebook?
We're on Twitter at Fresh Waves Radio. We're also on Facebook at Fresh Waves on Whistle FM.
Perfect. Thanks. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back, so stay tuned.
Hey, I'm whistling. Would you like to whistle too? Whistle FM is looking for a few good volunteers. Come and join our team and learn a new skill. We're looking for producers, show hosts, and even people to help out around the station. Learn something new and meet new people. Email us at admin@whistleradio.com or drop by the station behind Stillville Fine Furniture. We hope to see you soon.
Hey everyone, this is Lil J. Join me every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern for the Block Party. A 2-hour journey of the best in the Canadian underground dance music scene, featuring tracks and DJ mixes from Canada's emerging artists, from the disco hits of the 70s to the latest dance floor fillers. No lineups or cover charges, it's your weekly free access to the beats that are packing dance floors in Canada and around the world. The Block Party, Saturday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, right here on 102.9 Whistle FM.
Hi folks, Kim Mitchell here. You know, however you choose to get around, your ATV, your snowmobile, your boat, car, if you have a motorcycle, all these things take 100% of your attention and skill to operate safely. Alcohol impairs that, and bad things can happen. So, be smart, okay? You know what I'm going to say next.
This message brought to you from the Safe and Sober Awareness Committee.
We're back on Fresh Waves. We're talking with Jolana and Tara about framing and decorating, because framing and decorating go hand in hand. And we just discussed that the 60-inch center rule for hanging is a good thing. What about the frame, where someone gets a picture and they come into you and then they show you the other picture of the room that they want to hang it in, and they want to match the frame to the room?
You can take this one, Tara.
First of all, I do love it when people come into the store and they're prepared. Even if they don't have their paint chips with them, they can tell me what their Benjamin Moore color was. I have a fan book. I pull the fan book out so we can see what the real tones are.
Right.
Because even grays, I mean, you got green grays and yellow grays and blue grays, and there's like a million grays, and grays are such a hot color.
Right.
And you need to note the undertone to be able to see the colors that will fight with it. Because a green wall, you don't want to put matting or anything on it that has a pinkish tone to it. The pink and the green like fight with each other. They look disgusting. You need to have something that relates. So what I tell people is, I'm not a huge fan of framing everything the same. I think that the artistic nature of art and framing and design, you want to frame something in a way that relates to what you have, not matches it exactly.
No, and inject your own personality too, right?
Of course.
Yeah,
And
of
the feeling of the piece.
And the feeling of the piece. Now, that said, I think that, you know, some framers like that you frame for the art just on its own. I'm not 100% like cool with that, because I don't think that, you know, you should frame the art outside of its environment, because the two things relate to one another. You can frame for the art alone and it will look completely weird in the room that you want to put it in. It's a balance. between those. And when you come to your framer with lots of information and you've got your paint colors and you've got a picture of the room and I can see, you know, you've got wrought iron and you've got, you know, dark woods and you've got all these like accents, all these like hard finishes that are in the room already, then I can really advise you in a really excellent way what I think goes along with what you've done and enhances it. You can even push the envelope. You can bring it a little bit further in one direction or another. But the more information you give your framer, the better advice that I can give you.
So Tara does very similar to what we do when we do a consultation. We ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I was actually surprised. Here it is. Frame it, please. Turns into an hour and a half discussion.
That's right.
Sure.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be pretty straightforward.
Yeah, because we want you to enjoy whatever piece you end up putting into your room to the absolute height of that enjoyment for yourself. So it's very easy to just give you a generic frame.
Sure.
Very easy to do
and
that.
there are framers that do that.
Yeah.
You know, they have the set black frame that they like to put on everything.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably a more efficient business model to just, you know, buy a certain molding and just like throw it on everything. But that is not the way that I do my work.
No.
And that's not the way Jolana does her work.
No.
I mean, it's not, I mean, we're artists. And we're artists working for you to help you create like environments for yourself that are perfect. Like as perfect as we can make them. Because in that is satisfaction, and then you end up with spaces that, you know, that you enjoy, you can relax in. Everything is harmonious. Everything supports you in your life. You're not, you know, constantly seeing a picture that, you know, bugs you.
Yeah, and there is a reason when you walk into a room and you love to be in that room, it's because it's been well appointed. So it really is important to sit down and look at your options. There are no question. And we like to kind of inject that little bit of that architectural element into it. And that sets it apart again and makes it just a little bit more unique.
Because your environment is an extension of you. I mean, whether or not you admit it or not, it is an extension of you. And you spend any kind of time in a room. Well, you noticed it. You said you were at the McMichael, and all your friends, and the room you liked the most was the room that was the most natural. It had stone in it. It had wood in it. You know, and it's because there's something about like a well-appointed room that makes you feel good.
And you don't have to have a ton of stuff.
No.
So it's not about the volume or the amount of pieces you have in the room. It's the pieces that you have in the room.
And you get accustomed to things, I think. I think we all do. We all get accustomed to the way a thing looks.
Yeah. And your eye passes over it.
Yep.
Doesn't even really see it anymore.
Or you go and renovate the house, you renovate that room, you change the paint color, you change the furniture around, even if you just change the location of the furniture, but you change the room around, and then all of a sudden the painting doesn't fit anymore. It doesn't match. It doesn't, it kind of sticks out like too much of something that doesn't belong.
Right.
People say that they don't like the painting or they try and relocate it. What about reframing it?
Oh, you know what? How many homes have you gone into where they'll say to you, oh, can you just have a look at some of these paintings? They take you into a room. Yeah. There's like 20 or 30 paintings. And I always say, well, tell me what you love.
Yeah.
And they'll pull out all, you know, maybe 5 out of the 20 and they'll say, I really love these, but I can't make them work. Well, it's usually because of the framing.
Yes.
And then you take that piece. How many times have I brought tons of artwork into you? We have completely changed up the artwork, and in its new home, they are loving it like they just bought it for the first time, and their enjoyment level just goes so much higher. So
one of my clients, we have reframed 5 now of her Trisha Romance prints.
Yep.
Because they were framed in the 80s with dark burgundy frames.
Yeah, and all the same frames.
Well, there was gold and there was, you know, burgundy, and the mats were dark green and burgundy and all these dated colors. So we've redone them all, neutralizing them, shades of white and gray. And you'd be amazed at how phenomenal a Trisha Romance print looks. Because of the beautiful soft pastel colors, when you neutralize the framing and make
You notice
them
the
white.
picture.
So apparently all her friends are like amazed.
See? Yeah, I
Looking
love
through
that.
her house, loving her Trisha Romance prints. And she kept them because they were highly sentimental.
Yeah.
They reminded her of her children growing up and significant parts of her life, and she wanted to keep them, but she could not put them up looking the way that they did.
So everyone has sort of, I'm going to call it a stash of, or a collection of art that they've put downstairs, and they've kept it for a reason.
Yeah.
They've kept it for a reason. But they just can't make it work. So this is where I love taking in something old and making it something new again.
Yeah. And you see it with new eyes.
Yeah.
You love
do.
it all
You do.
over again.
Yeah. And I think the same goes with photographs. Some of the family photographs, people think that it either has to have that plain, black, simple, somewhat ugly frame, and or, like my dad used to do, he would find some ornate, thick, ugly wood frame, and he would find it on sale somewhere because no one wanted it, Dad, and put all the family photos in this and present us with blown up 8x10s or whatever of family pictures, and it just looks like something from your great grandmother's cupboard that even she didn't like. And what do you do with it?
Yeah.
You reframe it.
You know, and that's actually a really great point, because we've had clients where they've taken portraits and they want to give it to all their family. And I've quite often said, you are better off to give a little gift certificate to go towards the framing of that picture and take it into someone like Tara and let her help you so that it becomes your own. So the thought of doing the family pictures is amazing, but sometimes you'll find when you go to look for your portrait at that person's house that you gave that picture,
It's not there.
it's somewhere where maybe you can't even see it, and there's usually a reason. So, yeah.
Yes, well, we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we get back from the break. The old giving someone art. And you know, when my dad would come over, I'd run into the back bedroom, grab the picture of the parrot that he brought me from goodness knows where, and stick it on the wall. And then when he left, take it down with a sigh of, oh, thank goodness. Anyway, but you don't want to hurt his feelings, so you put it up every time he comes over. It's when they drop in by accident and you're not expecting them and it's not on the wall that things start to get a little difficult. Anyway, we'll talk about that when we get back from our break. You're listening to Fresh Waves on Whistle FM. We've got Jolana and Tara in the studio this morning, and we're talking about framing, so stay tuned.